Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week we are going to be travelling to California for one of our favourites, the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, and we're sampling a few of their different beers, including their pale ale, handcrafted ale, as well as their California IPA. But first, Rich, I believe you have a hot topic for us.
Yeah, I do. So I thought we'd maybe stray away a little bit from like the beer news and stuff like that, and maybe go something that's a little bit, I don't know, light-hearted, shall we say? And I went for Stag-do disasters.
This is going to be a good list.
Yeah, well, like we've all been on a stag-do. We all went on Joe's stag-do, which was very funny. I remember making Joey eat a really hot curry.
Yes, with my hands. So thank you for that, boys. That's great.
Hey, I was so up for letting you use a spoon. I was going to let you. I'd say you could have used a spoon and or a stretch of naan bread, but I don't think that would have made it any cooler.
I think that was physically painful mostly for my dad to watch me go through that, because he was just like, I want to help my son out and I can't.
Yeah, had to be physically restrained.
Yes. Oh yeah.
But we had some sensible times paintballing. Obviously you're hearing my side of the story, but I was pretty sick at paintballing, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, the paintballing was a big highlight, I would say, from the whole weekend.
I think I chased some 12-year-olds.
Was that to do with the paintballing drabs, or was that something separate?
No, yeah, it was the paintballing. I remember there was some 12-year-olds that I think I chased with a paintball gun.
Those school kids never knew what hit them.
But in comparison to some of these stories that I've been reading at the moment, Joe Stag-do was incredibly tame.
Well, I didn't feel it at the time, Travers, but I'm hoping you've got some. You're going to get something juicy for us.
No, so that was something a bit easier. So one Stag-do was on their way to Amsterdam, that I'm reading here, and in all fairness, their Stag-do weekend never really or it took off but never really landed, because they all got arrested because some bloke decided to set the stag's hair on fire before on the plane on the flight to Amsterdam.
Wow. Isn't it traditional to take your friends on a stag-do with you?
Well, that's what I thought.
Idiot. How has that even happened? Like, why would anyone think that was an okay idea? Like, that would be possible? A, setting fire on a plane, but also your friend's hair? No, that doesn't sound right at all.
Well, that's it. Well, with all three of us have done the flight to Amsterdam together, and it's a relatively short flight. In general, you literally take off and land, and
yeah, they barely get the landing gear up.
Yeah, I just don't get why you would set somebody's hair on fire.
Was it the stag himself who caught fire, or were they, just maybe too? Yeah. Because sometimes on stags you meet people you haven't met before. You might be like an old school friend, and you might be there with a work friend, and maybe they just didn't quite connect. And within that first half an hour when they're on the plane together, supposedly what happened is one of the guys said, "I know what I need to do. I need to set this guy on fire."
Well, I just don't get the thought process to thinking it's okay to set somebody on fire. Hey, but each to their own, I suppose.
No, I think we can put that down to a number one moron, and we can draw a line under that and move on.
Draw a line moron. Okay, all right. So the next one was a Welsh fella was living it up in Barcelona for his stag-do, and that for some reason the guys on his stag-do had all taken his wallet and his phone and everything off him for the night. He had maybe had a bit too many, ended up in a taxi, and ended up 48 hours away from his accommodation.
Wow. So just because I'm aware I haven't had a stag do yet, we may be waiting some time for that to eventually happen. Can you guys promise me this won't happen to me?
Yeah, I have to strongly agree with you, Barbara, that I just think that context of like letting the stag without any communication or money or a form or whatever, going off by themselves, let alone getting into a taxi. And I mean, what's going through the taxi driver's mind when they give a destination which is days away and they go, oh, okay, let's just go then.
Yeah, bold move, I think.
Right, okay, so I'll give you one more before we move on to the tasting of Sierra Nevada. So this one, the title of this story is called Nuns on the Run.
I like it already.
It's quite funny. So there was a group of lads. Yeah. So there was a group of lads, as the article said, living at large in Malia.
Lovely Isle of Crete.
And they were all, and it was ages between 18 to 65.
That is a broad age range on a stag do.
Broad spectrum on there. And they decided to all dress up as nuns.
Did I hear that right? That age range?
Yes, you did. 18 to 65.
Actually, I suppose that's not that rare. I think that was possibly quite similar for my brothers because we had a dad and an uncle. And
that's
that was
true.
back when I was 19. So maybe not.
Actually, come to think about it, that probably would hit the criteria for my stag-do as well. Although 18 probably a bit young, but it would have been maybe mid-20s to 65.
Sorry, Drabs, you said that they were all dressed as nuns. What happened next?
Yeah, so they're all dressed as nuns, and they all got arrested for apparently their unsaintly behaviour.
Unsaintly behaviour.
Why am I lacking all of my nun material right now?
I would just love to have heard the police's, kind of write up for what that unsaintly behaviour was, and has there been a precedent that's been set by the nuns in real nuns in recent past?
Well, what I found out, so the one thing that was logged was they were flashing their bottoms whilst wearing the holy garbs.
Oh dear, that's a bad habit to be in.
And the English always want. I'm presuming these are English stag groups going out into Malia. We do not make a good name for ourselves in the Greek islands. No wonder why the local police don't have a fun time during the summer seasons.
I've been to Malia. I went to Malia when I was about 18 or 19. I went on a lads' summer holiday with a couple of female colleagues, actually, which was it didn't turn out to be quite the lads' weekend. It was actually quite civilised, which is not quite what Malia I think is purpose built for. But we had a lovely time. I'm a little bit disappointed I didn't see any nuns, counterfeit nuns or otherwise.
Well, I mean, I've also too have been to Malia around that 18 years, and I did the full, 6 boys out in Malia, first time a few of them had been out away from home before. It's a shame Simo's not on this call because he features very prominently in this Malia story. Anyway, it's, let's just say, it's a good job after the first night that, he stuck to us, for the rest of the holiday after the first night. So let's put it that way.
Again, for our US-based listenership, the In-Betweeners movie, pretty much just watch that, and that's what Joe and I probably experienced when we we each went to Malia.
Mostly dancing very poorly in very, not very full nightclubs. Let's put it that way.
Getting swindled into them, by people on the street saying, "Yeah, oh, that's brilliant in there. Go and have a great time." And when you get in there, it's a little bit of a surprise.
Right, should we get into Sierra Nevada then?
Yeah.
The California beer.
Yeah, I'm game.
So Sierra Nevada for me is this quintessential West Coast ale or West Coast beer company. Started out Chico, California, and then they've grown to have breweries in Mills River, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. So, these areas are not ones that I know firsthand, but do they basically decide that they like to base themselves in really gorgeous parts of the world?
Well, it's different ends of the country. It's different sides of the country, I should say. So the original one in Chico, California, starting that up. So that's really focusing around the West Coast of the US, maybe getting a bit more into the Midwest. But, North Carolina, that will definitely be servicing, fresher beer around the East Coast of the US. Now, I mean, Sierra Nevada, you can find Sierra Nevada in quite a lot of different international countries as well. So I don't know if that's because it's brewed from the California side or if it's brewed from the North Carolina side. Maybe servicing Europe and the UK, that's going to be from the North Carolina side, and maybe if it's servicing Southeast Asia, Australia, that may be coming from the California side. Again, we'll have to check that.
It just made me think you said about it being international, because obviously Sierra Nevada is Spanish, I think, isn't it? So am I right in saying I think it translates roughly or more literally to snowy mountains? Because I know there is the Sierra Nevada mountain range in Spain as well. But I'd be interested to know more, particularly about where they ship to. Maybe we'll have a little look, find out how many countries it is that it retails in.
See, this is the first time I've tried Sierra Nevada as a beer. Like, it was for this podcast. I've always seen it pop up in like Tesco and Asda and stuff like that, but I've never been inclined to buy it But since buying it, since we've struggled to over a few times to try and record with Sierra Nevada, I've had to re-buy this beer about 4 times because I've just drank it over and over before we've had a time to start recording because I've enjoyed it that much.
That's a pretty good indictment, isn't it? To say I couldn't hold on to it long enough to record about it. I just had to drink it because I had it.
So going back to the origins of Sierra Nevada. So Sierra Nevada really is the brainchild of a man named Ken Grossman. Now, Ken Grossman's got a really interesting story. He started brewing or home brewing, from in his mum's house when he was a teenager back in 1969. Now, this is back when home brewing was actually illegal in the US. So he was doing this because he had a real passion for brewing beer.
Prohibition.
We're way past prohibition. Prohibition was a lot earlier on in the
20s,
20s, yeah. Yes, exactly. But he started getting more and more serious about his brewing. For those kind of the time period between 1969 before actually got it legalized. Home brewing got legalized in the US was 1976. So, from that time period from 1969 where he started messing around with home brewing kits and, getting, kind of honing his skill, I suppose, and his love of beer, when it came around to 1978, which is when home brewing officially became legal in the US, he was ready to, I guess, kind of hit the mainstream, as it were. And so why Sierra Nevada, became the name of his kind of hobby and his passion is because he's a serious climber. And he used to do a lot of climbing trips up to the Sierra Nevada mountains up in California.
So presumably Sierra Nevada was kind of, I know it particularly, I mean, you just see on the bottle, the label says since 1980. So I guess they were 11 years in the making, presumably from the period of when homebrewing wasn't allowed to actually sort of being a fully fledged, whether it's a limited company or sort of certified brewery.
Well, 1980 is a super significant date because that is the date they hand built their own brew house.
Oh, nice.
So, this was a place like literally from scratches, just building, with hands, nails, carpentry, building this old brew house from scratch. And he says mostly using, recycled dairy equipment, so he would, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
This is great. This is an era as well, 1980s, where, you didn't have resources like, the free content on the internet to find out how other people have done it. There wasn't this whole, let's help you set yourself up as a brewery. You had to really kind of like figure this out by finding it out for yourself. So, you had to kind of figure this out by kind of getting things wrong, kind of setting stuff up, seeing if it worked, then repeating and doing it again.
Yeah, it seems like their tagline is handcrafted ale, and now we know where that comes from.
You know what I really enjoyed when I was doing a bit of research into this was Sierra Nevada started off as a stout. So it was a dark, heavy ale before it became the IPA and the lighter, refreshing beverage that it is nowadays.
That's I'm somewhat glad of that. I mean, I do like a stout from time to time, but what they've produced here is really tasty. I think also, presumably for the climate, it makes sense to have something a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I mean, this is very quintessential of an American craft, pale ale. Although it's been around since the 80s, it is craft in that sense. It's probably one of the pioneering, and a lot of people would probably tip their hat to Sierra Nevada as being, one of the main fighting forces behind, the change in movement of craft beer around the world, because they have exported globally. But this pale ale is light. It's, as you said, Barbara, it's suitable for the Californian climate. It's not a heavy drink by any stretch of the imagination. You're going to get quite a lot of fruity notes coming in there. I think it's a really nice and delightful interpretation of a classic style. You're going to get that deep amber color. It's going to come across as quite full-bodied, but complex as well.
Yeah, there's some layers to it, and actually, I would say, unless I've my fortitude has strengthened of late. For something that's 5.6 ABV, I don't feel like it's a big slap in the face to say, it's only have a couple of these. It's maybe I'm a thirsty boy today, but it's going down really smoothly.
What are you guys drinking? Because I'm drinking the California IPA. Was the only one I could get.
Well, I've just been drinking the original, which is the pale ale, the handcrafted pale ale. But I also, now that you mention it, have just started the Californian IPA.
Yeah, because I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So I was going to say, well, this is the only one I was able to get around in Weymouth where I am. And yeah, I'm sold at how good it is and how tasty it is, sort of thing. And I just love the design of the can.
So, Rich, you could only get the Californian IPA. Did you say you couldn't get the flagship pale ale?
Yeah, so I visited 6 different stores to try and get the other one, but all I could get was the California IPA, which I'm not complaining about because it's fantastic. But this was the only one I could come across.
We are lucky these days, I would say, that with the amount of things, particularly here in the UK, that you can find on your normal supermarket shelf. There's so many more choices than there were. I want to say 5 years ago, but I think it's easy to underestimate timescales. It's probably more like 10 years ago. But the diversity has
10 years ago.
Massively.
10 years ago for sure.
And I've noticed something about, because you mentioned the design on the can drabbers. This is the first beer. I'm trying to think of some others that where this might also be the case, and it may only be that I've only just realised this. But for the flagship pale ale, it's actually got an image of some hops and barley on it. That seems kind of appropriate for a beer, right? Why haven't I seen that on any other beers?
Well, it's because they are really leaning into their classic beer cues. There's people have it's okay. So the hops and barley in this style is a very illustrative style, but it's also seen as really old school. So quite a lot of the craft beer industry has moved away from, and the beer industry as a whole has moved away from these very this is a hop and a barley. Like, people know what beer is about. You might have hops and barley as part of your, your design, but it's going to be in a more stripped back. It's going to be in a more subtle way, maybe in a slightly different treatment that isn't as overt. And again, that's Sierra Nevada aren't trying to play in those cues. This is the design that's probably been very similar for a very, very long time.
I was going to say, the only time I've ever seen the hops used like this sort of thing was when it comes to Salt Brewery. On some of their cans, they had hops kind of built into quite an intricate design, but this is just very much in your face on the can sort of thing, which I'm down for. I'm down for that.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, of the 5 ingredients of beer, because there is a little river in there is also water. I don't want to sound like it's a criticism, but Sierra Nevada, should you maybe have put an image of some yeast on the bottle as well, just so everyone knows what's in the contents. I suppose everyone's a critic though, right?
So I think you were talking about, Barb's, how there's a lot of more options now with beer. Just looking on Sierra Nevada's Untapped, there are 644 different beers that have been rated by peers on Untapped for Sierra Nevada. So they have, in this time frame, from when they started 1980, or even when Untapped started, which I don't know when that was, maybe sometime in the mid 2000s. They've racked up over 644 different beers that people have tried, enjoyed, and reviewed.
Mad. Is that right? 644 beers have been reviewed by peers. Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Piers has been a busy boy, hasn't he? Oh, come on, guys! Where's the laugh? Oh, there it is. There we go.
So Rich is working with a slight delay. You've got to wait for it.
Thanks, Drabs, mate.
But it gets you.
A big shout out to my one fan.
You know what I enjoy most about... Yeah. You know what I enjoy most about the can is the slogan they have on the top of the California... I don't know if it's on your guys' bottles known, but it says family owned, operated and argued over, which I think is quite nice. It's a nice touch.
It's really nice. They've got it all plastered over their website as well. To really highlight how they're independent. They're an independent brewery. They're not owned by one of the big players. So their success really is the family's success, and the fact that they have this, these fantastic beers and a story behind it, which people really have got into.
Man alive, if my family tried to operate a brewery, there wouldn't be much owning and operating going on. I think it would just be arguing.
I think they'd find it hard to organise that piss up in said brewery.
Yeah, definitely. No, this is how you drink the beer. No, it's not. We're not arguing. Yes, we are.
It's a strongly worded debate. So what I really enjoy about Sierra Nevada is they've got something called Sierra Nevada camps and parties across America, which I think is really cool. So what they do, it's a traveling beer festival, and it travels around America, and of course Sierra Nevada plays a big part in it, sort of thing. But they also have 700 different I can't get my words out. Breweries poured at the festival as well. So they're not just promoting themselves, they're promoting kind of like everybody else, and it ties in with a 12-pack of beers that they collaborate and create just for the festival, which I think is really cool.
Oh, that is nice. Yeah, contributing to the beer community.
Yeah, and I think you see it from these companies that are the pioneers, or they've gained some huge success in the beer industry. They're happy to promote younger or smaller breweries. Let's say smaller breweries is the right word, not younger. Because it's part of it. If everyone's winning, everyone's out there enjoying, the beer. It doesn't matter who's buying what at that kind of environment. It's just about collaboration and enjoyment, isn't it?
What I googled, because whenever we do a brewery, I Google top 10 facts about said brewery and stuff like that. And luckily, Sierra Nevada has paid out. They also
don't give your tips. Don't give your tips away. Don't let them see behind the curtain, Rich.
You've broken the fourth wall.
Just
what I really like
go into it.
Yeah, is they have a hop delivery system called the Sierra Nevada's Torpedo IPA, which is a mechanism that enables breweries to amplify the aromas when dry hopping. Which is so basically they're amplifying whatever flavour they can get out of each hop with a patented mechanism. It doesn't get into too much detail about that, but I would like to know what the Sierra Nevada dry hops tornado is. Torpedo, which is interesting.
That seems like a KFC, special recipe or special ingredient that you just won't know unless you're in the know. It's never, and especially because it's family owned, this definitely speaks of, there is no like digital copy of this recipe. It's just, handwritten or hand, delivered, and, it's passed from generation to generation.
So I was just doing a little bit of reading around Sierra Nevada and what they do. So sustainability is a big issue for them. I say a big issue. It's a big aspect of what they do. I could almost. We haven't got time in our
every brewery ever.
Yeah, it's we haven't got time in our punchy and hard hitting podcast to tell you all the many things these guys do. Best thing to do is possibly go and investigate yourselves, or go and visit one of the if you're US based or you fancy a trip over there. Go and visit some of the sites that they brew from. They will tell you sort of straight away, reduce, reuse, recycle is not only a smart way to run your business, but also to it's the right thing to do as well as doing the right thing. But have a look at particularly at their interactive maps, and they'll take you through every aspect. I mean, it looks a little bit like it's not just a production unit, but it's also really friendly for visitors as well. And you can go around and see the good work that they're doing, from water recycling in the bottle shop, electric vehicle charging points. From what I can see, it looks as though they're absolutely covered in solar power generators as well, and they're sort of growing their own hops and barley within a couple of miles of the restaurant there. So obviously it's the good work of growing it themselves, but it's not as though they have to travel far to get into the brewery itself. So there's some really, as I said, it's not just that they're doing the right thing, but they're doing the thing right here to look after the world, and also it's a sensible way to run the business.
Yeah, it seems not. And again, as you were saying, Travis, it's great to hear that the more and more breweries are very outward with their approach to sustainability and documenting how they're actually helping to reduce, reuse, recycle, as you said, Barbara. So closing them up on Sierra Nevada, Instagram, they have 403,000 followers, and on Twitter they have 202k followers. So
yeah, those numbers are pretty pokey when you consider not too long ago we talked about coronavirus, Corona Extra, sorry. And the numbers that they had, when you consider they're one of the most widely selling beers in the world, Sierra Nevada are obviously getting a bit of attention in
I
that
have
case.
to wonder if this is a real that exact example of Corona Extra in comparison to Sierra Nevada. This is the difference between a brand and a lifestyle brand, because Sierra Nevada definitely hits a lifestyle brand like criteria. They're cool. They're people aspire to kind of live this kind of California dream. You're transported into the work that they do with these mobile festivals and stuff. People want to be a part of it. It's collaboration. It's getting people involved. Whereas Corona Extra are on that different level of stratosphere of the amount of hectoliters they sell every year, around the world in all these different countries. So it means something different to all these different places. Whereas Sierra Nevada, although they're a smaller company in regards to the hectoliters that they put out there, they are a bigger company with people's reach and the profile that they have on these social media websites, because people really engage and want to be engaged with Sierra Nevada.
Yeah, that's interesting, and it's obviously something that is at the forefront of people's minds.
I was going to say they are big in their own sense, sort of thing, but they're not Corona big, because they're not being sold absolutely everywhere in all of these things. But they're kind of creating, I suppose it would be not so much maybe a cult following in that essence. Like if you're going to go out and buy it, it's because you kind of know that you like it, or you want to try something different, and they're building up that kind of cult presence that I'm going to go and drink some Sierra Nevada today. I'm going to go to the Sierra Nevada Beer Festival sort of thing. And I think you have to be Googling, you have to be searching for what they're doing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, Travis, because also then that sort of tells you that the Sierra Nevada fans are pretty diehard fans. I say diehard. Obviously, following them on Instagram and Twitter, it's not diehard necessarily, but they want to engage with them, and they're looking at the things that they do. Whereas you could say that those Corona fans that we talked about before kind of maybe drink it because it's there. I don't want to. That sounds too much like a criticism, but aside from drinking the beer, then that's the extent of their relationship.
Well, that's it. As we talked about, I am a fan of Corona, but I don't follow them on socials. I don't Google them regularly, and I'm not actively going out to find out what Corona's up to. Cool, Corona's there, I'm going to drink it. Sierra Nevada, I would like to know what's going on. It's a bit like Brewdog. I want to know what Brewdog's up to. I want to know what they're doing. Sierra Nevada, now that I've started to try them or sample them, I'm on board and I want to find out what they're up to.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe, Rich,
Barbara,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com.
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.